Aha! I am live. Yay! Hi, everyone. This is a new thing for us, for me, for the channel. Um, I have a lot of books on this channel, and most of them are geared toward classrooms and students and teachers and trying to keep up with their reading assignments. However, there is another part of this channel. It's the spiritual part. The, what do I want to say? Just uplifting inspiration for your day. And Grains of Grace came from my morning readings. So I read the Liturgy of the Hours in the morning, and it came from that. So, um, we are going to be talking about Hinds' feet on high places today. And I found a devotional, and let me give her credit because credit belongs to whom it is due. This is by, I have to go to the top. Say hello if you get to the chat box. Say hello and tell me where you're from. This is written by Darian B. Cooper. She's a wife, a mother, a lecturer, and the author of several books, including the bestseller, You Can Be the Wife of a Happy Husband, with over 1 million in print after 30 years of publication. So she knows whereof she speaks. She lives in Tennessee, and I used to live there. And so she has written a devotional to go along with Hinds' feet on high places. Now, anyone who knows me knows how much I love this book. Next to A Wrinkle in Time, this has got to be chapter 1 is entitled The Invitation to the High Places. This is the story of Much Afraid. And, well, I'll just read the first little bit for you. This is the story of how Much Afraid escaped from her fearing relatives and went with the shepherd to the high places where perfect love casts out fear. For several years, Much Afraid had been in the service of the chief shepherd, whose great flocks were pastured down the valley of humiliation. She lived with her friends and fellow workers, Mercy and Peace, in a tranquil little white cottage in the village of Much Trembling. She loved her work and desired intensely to please the chief shepherd. But, happy as she was in most ways, she was conscious of several things which hindered her in her work and caused her much secret distress and shame. And here we go. We're going to describe Much Afraid. And as I describe Much Afraid, please think about yourself. Can you identify with her? So here we go. For several years, Much Afraid had been in the service of the chief shepherd. Oh, I already read that part. In the first place, she was a cripple with feet so crooked that they often caused her to limp and stumble as she went about her work. She had also a very unsightly blemish of a crooked mouth, which greatly disfigured both expression and speech, and was sadly conscious that these ugly blemishes must be a cause of astonishment and offense to many who knew that she was in the service of the great shepherd. Most earnestly, she longed to be completely delivered from these shortcomings and to be made beautiful, gracious, and strong, as were many of the shepherd's co workers or other workers, and above all, to be made like the chief shepherd himself. But she feared that there could be no deliverance from these two crippling disfigurements, and that they must continue to mar her service always. There was, however, another and even greater trouble in her life. She was a member of the family of Fearings. Her relatives were scattered all over the valley so that she could never really escape them. An orphan, she had been brought up in the home of her aunt. Poor Mrs. Dismal forebodings, with her two cousins, gloomy, ooh, and spiteful, ugh, and their brother, Craven Fear, a great bully who had habitually tormented and persecuted her in a really dreadful way. Like most of the other families who lived in the valley of humiliation, all the Fearings hated the chief shepherd and tried to boycott his servants. And naturally, it was a great offense to them that one of their own family should have entered his service. Consequently, they did all they could, both by threats and persuasions, to get her out of his employment. And one dreadful day, they laid before her the family dictum that she must immediately marry her cousin, Craven Fear, and settle down respectably amongst her own people. If she refused to do this of her own free will, they threatened to use force and compel her. Poor Much Afraid was, of course, overwhelmed with horror at the mere idea, but her relatives always terrified her, and she'd never learned to resist or ignore their threats. So she simply sat cowering before them, repeating again and again that nothing would induce her to marry Craven Fear, but she was quite unable to escape from their presence. The unhappy interview therefore lasted a long time, and when finally they did leave her for a while, it was already early evening. And with a surge of relief, Much Afraid remembered that the chief shepherd would then be leading his flocks to their accustomed watering place beside a lovely cascade and pool on the outskirts of the village. Place she was in the habit of going very early in the morning to meet him and learn his wishes and commands for the day, and again in the evenings to give her report on the day's work. It was time for her to go and meet him there, and so let's stop for our discussion. Have you ever um, felt like Much Afraid? That you were so disfigured and so marred and so just not good enough to be counted as a servant of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Have you ever felt that way? I know that I have. I know that I have felt like I can't overcome some things. But there is grace. There is grace. So here's our devotional for today. Have you ever felt abandoned, forsaken, or tormented by those closest to you? Perhaps even by your own family members. Those closest to us can often bring a greater degree of torment or hurt than anyone else. However, we can be comforted by God's words to us. Can a woman forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you. Behold, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are continually before me. That's from Isaiah 49, verses 15 through 16. Turn to Jesus as you would to a trusted friend. Realize He's welcoming you into His presence with outstretched arms. Pour your heart out to Him. Tell Him all about the pain. Hmm. How many of us don't tell the Lord about how much we hurt? Pour your heart out to Him. Ponder this thought right now. Just as you are, both the Father and the Son love you as much as they love one another. That they may all be one, even as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they may be one in us. And that's John 17:21. Lord, help me to grasp the depth of your love. A love where I'm never forgotten is hard for me to understand. Help me to grasp the depth of such unfathomable, fathomable love. I've never known such love before, but I do thank you for it. It is such a thing. Do you know how much He loves you? Do you know how much He cares? Do you know how much He wants to fix it, whatever it is? Do you know? I am going to see about, at one point, I could share my screen. So let me, no, I think I'll wait. Okay, she has gone to report on the day's work. It was now time to meet him there beside the pool, and she felt sure he would help her and not permit her relatives to kidnap her and force her to leave his service. The dreadful slavery of marriage with craven fear. Still shaking with fear and without pausing to wash the tears from her face, much afraid, shut the door of the cottage and started off for the cascade and the pool. The quiet evening light was filling the valley of humiliation with a golden glow as she left the village and started to cross the fields. Beyond the river, the mountains which bounded the eastern side of the valley, like towering ramparts, were already tinged with pink, and their deep gorges were filled with lovely and mysterious shadows. Through the quiet and peace of this tranquil evening, poor, terrified, much afraid, came to the pool where the shepherd was waiting for her and told him of her dreadful night plight. What shall I do? She cried as she ended the recital. How can I escape? They can't really force me to marry my cousin Craven, can they? Ah, she cried, overwhelmed again at the very thought of such a prospect. It is dreadful enough to be much afraid, but to think of having to be Mrs. Craven Fear for the rest of my life and never able to escape from the torment of it is more than I can bear. Don't be afraid, said the shepherd gently. You are in my service, and if you will trust me, they will not be able to force you against your will into any family alliance. But you ought never to have let your fearing relatives into your cottage, because they are enemies of the king who has taken you into his employment. I know, oh, I know, cried Much Afraid, but whenever I meet any of my relatives, no matter how I strive, as long as I live in the valley, I cannot escape meeting them. They are everywhere, and now they are determined to get me into their power again. I shall never dare venture outside my cottage alone for fear of being kidnapped. And that's where I'm going to leave you until tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll meet again and we will finish chapter 1, or at least get a little bit farther in. It's almost over anyway. There are a couple of more devotionals here though. I have the PDF for this devotional. If you are interested in doing this alone or along with me, there may be days where we may not get to the devotional part, or we may not be able to read much more of the book. So, if you are interested, the book is up on the channel, so you can listen to the chapters and do the devotional on your own. Please send me an email asking for Hinds Feet Devotion. And I will put my email in the description box below this video and in the chat box. So, until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his peace.